Welcome to the Dani Ariza podcast. Today's episode probably like 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's episode 8. And today I have Darwin Roman from.
Well, from New Jersey, but actually originally from New York. I was born in New York and
nice.
Raised in Queens.
Yeah.
So that's why I have to explain myself a lot of times as to why I'm a Met fan, because I get a
Mets
lot
fan.
of crap about it. Yeah, so
Mets.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
doing all right.
which football team do you like?
football, Jets.
Jets. Okay, so that kind of makes
Mets, Jets,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. I make fun of people that But Mets. I mean, do you follow soccer?
Yeah.
Yeah. I joke around. I have a friend who's an Arsenal.
Okay.
fan.
Okay. Oh, there you
And I always mess around with him, telling him, "Oh, you guys are like the Mets, lots of money, lots of
Yeah.
resources, but never."
Can't pull through.
Yeah.
Pull through. Oh God, yeah, it's terrible. But then currently live in Roosevelt Park.
Oh, okay.
Elizabeth.
But you grew up in what part of New York?
It was in Astoria.
Astoria. Okay, so
Astoria,
right there.
I was about 9 years old. Moved over to Jersey with my family. Lived in Jersey most of my life. A little bit of my time I lived in Pennsylvania, but not long.
Yeah, Roselle Park. And how long have you been in Roselle Park?
Well, I mean, off and on, I'd say about 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
Changed a lot, right?
Yeah, in between that, sure. Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like I used to live in Elizabeth, and it's just amazing how Elizabeth has just completely
It has changed a lot. Yes.
Like I always say, by the port, those are parts that some people wouldn't,
Not at night.
not
You
at
don't wanna
night.
drive there.
Now it's
Now
like,
you almost can't even afford a place down there.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, which is great.
It's crazy, which shows the growth. But listen, I invited you because I see you all over the place. Not just training, but you're also, so you own what would I call it, franchise, or so it's Central Jersey Real Producers, right?
Correct. Right.
Besides doing life insurance, financial planning, and a bunch of other stuff.
That's right.
So definitely, I want to start hearing a little bit more about Central Jersey Real Producers. What is it?
Sure.
What is the magazine about? What does it entail?
Right. So Rural Producers Magazine as a whole is a franchise. It's been around for 10 years, but the parent company, N2 Publishing, has been around for a little more than 20 now at this point. So they have other publications, but I would say Rural Producers is more of the newer ones in their portfolio of magazines that they have. And it goes out to my franchise territory is Central Jersey. So I know that's almost a controversy at this point, but it's real, right? It's Middlesex County, Somerset County, Hunterdon County, and Mercer County. That was what corporate felt would be Central Jersey. So that's my territory, and my job is to simply feature the top agents in my territory with regards to their production, but not just production, but also their stories.
Their stories.
Important. So I'm one of 146 franchisees across the country, which the system works. So I just make sure I just follow the system. I just follow the blueprint that every other franchisee follows, and here we are.
Yeah, because last time I talked to you, you told me, so it's not, there's a ton of magazines out there, obviously. But to be featured on this magazine on the front cover, you actually have to be an actual real producer. Like you have to show that
That's the name of the magazine.
That it's not just, hey, here it is.
Right. Exactly. So the three things that make it different is that number one, here's a big one, a realtor can't pay me to be featured in the magazine. Not to say that's wrong for other platforms, but for ours, a realtor does not pay and cannot pay because we won't accept it, because they have to be able to earn their position in the magazine through their production. Yeah. So the way I use, I would say the standard I would use, make my life easier anyway, is Circle of Excellence, right? Circle of Excellence, they're broadcasted numbers, so it's pretty hard to hide behind that. So I use that as a measure. Now, does every agent have to be in Circle of Excellence? No, there's a lot of agents that don't participate in Circle of Excellence. So I let people know I'm looking for either Circle of Excellence level numbers or the equivalent. So you can be an off-market agent and selling, or even selling commercial, right? A lot of that stuff doesn't go on the MLS, which is fine. But if you have the numbers, then we can have a conversation about you being featured in the magazine. So that's number one. Realtor can't pay. Number two, you can't buy the magazine. You can't buy the magazine. You can't subscribe to it. You can't pick it up on Amazon. You have to be on a distribution list that we find through, again, Circle of Excellence. The top 500 realtors on a mailing list, individual, and every single agent on that list receives a free copy of the magazine. And even in the publisher's note, it explains as to, if you're reading this, congratulations, pat yourself on the back, because you've been recognized one of the top 500 realtors by Real Producers Magazine. Congrats.
Yeah.
So it gives them a little reason as to why they're getting the magazine. And the third thing that makes it different is that besides the actual print magazine going out every month, there's also live social events that I put together, that I produce, where I connect the realtors that are receiving the magazine, and also the other group is what we call the preferred partners in the magazine. Because yes, it's free for the realtor, right? But somebody has to finance this. Somebody's got to be a way.
It ain't charity.
Right. It's not a nonprofit magazine here, okay? It's not the ASPCA magazine. So in order for that to happen, you have to have preferred partners that are currently advertising clients. So you have lenders, you have title insurance companies, you have real estate attorneys, you have home inspectors, waste removal, solar panel, plumbers, recently a home stager. I recently got a med spa to come into the magazine. So all those are the folks that are paying on a monthly basis in advertising space, which helps to produce the magazine if we're able to be financially healthy. So we invite those folks to the event as well. So the third thing that makes it different is you can't buy a ticket to the event. You have to be invited. So if you're not on that realtor list, or if you're not a preferred partner, you don't get in. That's it.
Yeah, no, I think that's very unique. And I mean, if you think about it, I think it's an amazing way to operate a magazine, especially just if you're targeting that sector, right? The real estate agents. Because, obviously, as you know, there's so many people in this industry that you look at their profiles and everything, and you think they would do amazing, right?
Yeah, right.
And then when you look at the numbers, it's like, there's not much there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's a real value to make sure that, hey, these people who are here, either they have done very well, or because there's also like a section of rising stars, right?
What's that?
There's a section I saw, it's like rising stars.
Right, yeah. So every issue has 3 articles. The first one is the front cover story, which is on the front cover. The second is the rising star, which is usually, let's say, for example, in the conversation of Circle of Excellence, in order for you to be in the front cover, I'm looking for at least platinum or gold to be in the front cover. Rising star is either bronze or silver. So it's somebody that's started in the business, but they're making their way up. They're a rising star. Then also we have a spotlight on one of our preferred partners. So it could be we do it a rotation. So it could be one of the title companies or the lenders, and we'll do an article about them so they can get a spotlight in the magazine as well.
Yeah. And how many events a year do you have?
Every quarter.
Every quarter. So
every quarter. So I just had one February 20th. That was a lot of fun. I'm going to have another one April 23rd, and then one late in the middle of the summer, around like the last week of July, because July was my first issue, and that's when I do I'm going to be doing my second year in print, like, event. So like a party celebrating the second year in print. So it's kind of crazy to even say that out loud, that I'm coming to my second year of print, which is unbelievable.
Well, it's just, we were talking, before the podcast, how you just start something and it just keeps on going,
Yes. Yeah.
It just keeps on going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say for someone who's looking to put an ad on the magazine? What would be their biggest value? Obviously, we know that, hey, you're going to be reaching out to all these top agents, but wow, what are some of the experiences in the past of, like, people that have?
Bottom line, I would say in any business, relationships are the most valuable currency you can always carry in your business. Because I've come across realtors, lenders who've been in the industry for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, going back to the point where they were there around 2008 during a financial crash. And somehow they still survived those moments. They survived the crash. They survived down markets. They survived interest rates going up. They survived COVID. And every time that I speak to these seasoned vets, regardless whether they're realtors or outside of the realtor, they tell me the same thing. My relationships carried me through. I just knew good people that we stuck together. I had my back, or I knew where to find the business, because that's where it is, the relationship. And some of even the top producing agents that I speak to, I ask them, like, how is it that you're staying at that platinum level for the last decade straight every year?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like it's a given. You're going to make it. And Darwin, I just focus on the basics. I focus on my relationships. I take care of my clients, and I make sure I get them to the closing table. That's it. I'm like, okay, that's it. He goes, no, she goes, it's simple. I remember this woman, it's simple. Not everybody does it. Everybody wants to do it. But if you stick to those basics, you'll be successful. It just works. So when I talk to a lot of my advertising clients, I tell them the same thing, is that this is a relationship business. So use this tool as a way to develop a new relationship, whether it's a new relationship or an existing one that you can keep nurturing too. Yeah. Because the realtors are out there, they're doing a tough job. So as a lender, for example, you're looking for these realtors that are doing a great job and you want to help them, support them, and get them to the closing table, right? And when you get a chance to meet them, you find out it's just not about numbers, it's about that they have a story. And I tell my partners too, hey, every month you're going to receive a copy of the magazine. Read the story so you can find out who they are, where they came from, what they had to overcome. You'll be surprised that some people really share and share in a vulnerable way about their story and how they got to where they are. Yeah. And if you can find that out and find out more about that person, not just carrying that, hey, they're a real big producer, I can get some deals out of that person. Find out about the person, who they are. Maybe they have a child two kids, they have a couple of dogs, they came from a certain country. There's some way you can relate and show that you're actually interested in them versus just what they can do for you.
Yeah, no, and I think, that's a huge point. And I would say that's actually the reason why I started a podcast. Because it's, you've seen it in this industry, everyone's kind of, it feels like everyone's looking to like, hey, what can you give me?
Right.
And it's like everyone starts with that proposition. It's like, hey, even though I'm BSing my way around here, it's like, hey, what can you give me? I want your business, right? And sometimes people just don't stop and say, hey, who are you? What have you done? We always have kind of that barrier. And I read a couple of the magazine that you sent me, the editions, and it's great how you do get a, I'm sure there's a lot more to it, but an inside look of what they're doing and why they're so successful. Right. And especially for someone like me who's trying to learn, because that's really my what's in my mind lately. It's like, hey, I want to learn how these people are doing, why they're doing so great.
Right.
Because like you say, it's been a tough environment, and somehow they're still putting up really good numbers.
Exactly. When you think about it, I mean, in terms of let's say the numbers, Circle of Excellence, there was 630-ish agents that were recognized, at least out of my area. The Mid-Jersey Association of Realtors covers my area. 630 plus names on that list for Circle of Excellence. But there's approximately about 9,500 active licenses in that area. So it goes to show you. And usually the list, about 85% of the names, I'll take it back, maybe 80% of the names happen to be the same every year.
Yeah. Because you know what, people don't, I went to the Greater Bergen Realtors Circle of Excellence. And you start seeing the people and talking to them. And like you said, it's simple, but consistent.
Yeah.
Simple, but consistent. They're just all the time, they're doing what they need to do. They learn from other people, they do it. And I guess that's the formula.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to do the same thing all the time, Yeah, which exactly. It brings me back. I know you're into it's a bodybuilding.
Yes.
Yeah, which is kind of the same thing. You just know that you have to get up, and it's a lot of discipline.
It's mastering the mundane, right? So, for example, in bodybuilding, it's having to just deal with your meal plan every day, right? And we were talking about it earlier that it's definitely not exciting what I eat every day. Chicken and rice, or fish and rice, or meat and rice and vegetables, and then just stays right there. Right? Yeah. There's no variety really much in there. But there's a reason why, because that consistency develops a result. But it's not fun.
Yeah, it's definitely not fun.
It can be annoying. Yeah. And the same thing in business. It's just that you just master those mundane, everyday things, and then you execute whether you like it or not. Yeah. You just do it. And you realize that over time, you just have a result, right? And that's what happens even where to be in fitness, in your business, is the same thing. You just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And eventually, you get the dividends from that, right? You reap the benefits.
Yeah, I mean, you have to master the basics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I remember back when I was training, not now, but when I was training, they used to tell me, hey, I was like, hey, what should I start doing? Should I start doing this type of exercise and this and that? I said, no, bro. Just go ahead, walk on the treadmill, 30 minutes,
Right.
go, bench press, squats,
Yep.
same stuff. And you're like, really?
Yep.
Kind of like you start thinking, oh, I want to do like the fancy new exercise. You go, no, you need to just get these basics.
Because they work.
Yeah, they work.
Yeah.
And it's not sexy, but they work,
Yeah. Yeah, they work. Exactly.
They work. It's it's really amazing how many times that I catch myself doing this all the time. Where
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. But pretty soon you're going to start your journey again, right?
oh no, yeah. Actually, it's starting tomorrow.
Starting tomorrorow. Okay, cool. Because
Actually, you know what?
we're recording this, so
Actually,
starting
you know what?
tomorrow, you start. Okay,
I'll
I got
say
this.
it because tomorrow never comes. Starting tonight.
Tonight. Ooh,
Tonight. I'm gonna
see. You know what you just did right there? You went from being interested to committed,
yeah.
right? It's just there's a big difference between being interested and committed. Interested, it can go away after a while or really quickly, but committed, it means you're gonna get rid of every freaking excuse that you have to make it work, to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that could happen in a personal relationship, it could happen in business, it could happen in fitness, same thing. You're either interested or committed. Interested people make excuses, but committed people don't.
I am a big. I mean, I don't read Tony Robbins as much as I used to before. But for those who have read Tony Robbins, is the massive action plan. He's a big on that. So I was pissed off this morning because my back was hurting. So I said to myself, no, that's it. I can't have this shit anymore.
Yeah,
I need to just go out there and I've been saying it for a while, but yeah, if I actually say tomorrow something's gonna come, it's like, okay, let's just
tonight
just getting home and doing something.
Awesome. I'm gonna call you tonight and see how it's going.
You can definitely call me. I'll send you a picture.
Good. Yeah, there you go. There we go. Accountability. Love it. Okay.
I'll send you a picture. Yeah. But when is the competition?
July 27th.
July 27th. Okay. And what would you? What's your goal for the competition? Obviously to win it, but is there? This is for, you were talking physique, right?
Physique class. Yeah. So sure, I'd like to win. I mean, the last one that I did, my first ever one last year, I ended up getting first place for 40 and over, so my category. Second place, 35 and over, and then fifth place for true novice because it was my very first competition. So for me, it's like, okay, I got first, I got second. That's wonderful. But why did I get fifth? How do I fix that? Or how do I get better in that category? So if anything, that's what I'm hoping for, that this year, maybe in that that novice category, I could place a little higher. That'll show to me that I made progression, right? So that's really, and you just keep building on it. But I'm already noticing the difference from last year. I mean, last year I was at a certain weight on stage. I got a feeling this year I'll be actually at a heavier weight than I was last year on stage, which means I'm growing, right? And that's the part. That's the point.
What would you say would be? What was your mistake last year? Why could you have done better last year?
The guys came in bigger.
It's gonna be bigger.
Yeah, bigger shoulders, bigger back, bigger chest. So here I am. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's tough, man. It's tough.
Well, there's some things you can't control, right? First of all, I can't get taller. That's for sure.
I wish I could get taller.
I can't get younger, right? Yeah. So I'm competing against a guy that's 15 years younger than me. Okay, there's going to be a difference, right? But what you can control is your training every day and the way you eat and also your mindset of how you go about it. Yeah. That's really it. So
now, what made you go into bodybuilding?
I needed to change. Yeah. So previously, a little bit about my history too. So went through high school. After high school, joined the military. I was in the Marines, right? During that time, I was in the Marine Corps. My first job, because I was a reservist, I was in Jersey. My first job was with the Valley Sports Club in Clark.
By the way, where? Oh, in Clark.
In Clark, right? So my first job, it was 1999. It was my first full-time job, and I stuck with that industry for a decade, for basically 99 till about 2009. So yeah, I say a decade. And I was always around people that were in fitness, but then some people that would compete. And it always intrigued me. I always appreciated and respected the process of bodybuilding, and I admire it, right? But during those times, I just never really thought I could do it for whatever reason. I had some kind of limiting belief on myself, and I just didn't do it, didn't commit to it, just didn't try. Until I saw a friend of mine competing that's 15 years, give or take, older than me, and that impressed me. And I had a conversation with him, and he just straight up looked at me. He goes, "Okay, so you're starting January." Like this was like a November conversation or October, He's like, all right, let's start January. I was like, okay. He's like, I'm going to do a competition. You do one too. Let's go. He's like, nothing's stopping you. He's like, there's no reasons why. There's nothing that's stopping you from doing this. You have the time. You can find the time. And he's like, and if you think that waiting for more time is going to be the right way to go, don't do that. He goes, I'm telling you. He goes, if I was your age, I would start now. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And that's what I did. And I knew also that going through this process is going to be really tough. But the end result wasn't just physical, it was mindset.
Yeah.
It was proving to myself, right, that I was able to accept the challenge and change some things about myself, whether it be my eating habits, my drinking habits. I had a feeling that I can control myself a lot better, but I just didn't know what I needed to do to really get that level of discipline back. Like maybe I did like when I was like in the Marine Corps, right? And bodybuilding ended up being the one, being the channel for me to tap into that level of high level of discipline and mindset so that I can break some limiting beliefs I didn't even know I had.
Yeah.
Right? So then now I walk and I feel like I talk and carry myself a lot differently, especially when I'm meeting with somebody and talking about my business, because my confidence level goes to that goes higher. Just because of the fact that I'm putting myself through this process. And it's a process that I know that not many people have gone through or are willing to go through. Yeah. Right? I mean, to tell you the story about that competition last year, I talk about the mindset. So I won first place 40 and over. But here's the reality. When I got to that competition, they set you up behind the stage and they're lining you up. And they lined up 3 guys. I was one of the 3. The first guy was 65 years old, by the way, competing. Wow. Then there was me, and there was a guy behind me. The director or whatever at the stage was like, hey, all 3 of you go out there because all 3 of you are representing your categories. I go, okay. Again, I'm new. So I'm like, I didn't really know what that meant, but I'm going to find out. Go out there, pose. I come back and I go out, talk to my coach and go, hey, he says I'm the only one representing my category. What does that mean? He goes, well, you're the only one that showed up. I go, okay. So then what? He goes, you win. I go, really? He goes, yeah, you win because there's nobody else competing against you. At first, my mind and the voices in my head went negative.
Yeah, I can.
You're not enough. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
You didn't win. You didn't do enough to win. You obviously, because you hit 5th in the other one. It was all these negative things that bombarding my mind immediately.
Yeah.
And then I had conversations with people around me, and I actually said to somebody, I kind of felt this way. And they were like, no, that's wrong. That's a lie. The reality is that you showed up when nobody else did. You did this competition when nobody else in your age group even tried. And you went through and you did it. And that's why you won.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing even in our personal lives or in business. A lot of times, the competition that we have is the one in the mirror. And also, if we show up and do our job, most of the time, some people won't even do that. They just won't even show up.
It's, I mean, look, I do this thing where I, over the past, not to go into too many details, but over the past 15 years, I had very ups and, I mean, a lot of lows.
Welcome to the club.
Just like, it's just like anybody, And even like around 2015, I was pretty bad financial shape. I was like, that was like probably the biggest low. And I started talking to our therapist, and I've been actually talking to her since 2015.
Good.
And even now I feel great, but I still talk to her.
Sure. Good.
And from time to time, we do something where we'll go ahead and when I feel like down and everything, she'll come in and be like, hey, so tell me what you have done in the past 10 years. And then we start like going, listen, okay, I ran a couple marathons. I got out of my financial, crisis.
Yeah.
Bought a house, bought 2 houses.
Yeah.
Got married, wife, kids. All these.
It sounds like a success story to me.
And then you go like, And then it's like, have you seen people in worse shape than you? Yeah, no, I know this guy. He's having health issues. I know this. And then your whole perspective changes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we're so used, especially in real estate. When you're dealing with real estate, that we tend to go ahead and see, oh, this guy closed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses, and this guy is doing great. And we immediately, when we see that, we go like, I'm not doing that good.
Right.
As opposed to like, you know what? that person is doing it, I can do it myself too.
Yeah.
And there's so much of that, and it's an internal battle I think that everyone has, and honestly, a lot of times the way to get out of that, at least for me, and this is not that I'm going through kind of like a crisis myself right now, but a lot of times it helps to be training.
Yeah.
It helps to be in shape, because you're basically, when, I mean, let's face it, when you're training and when you're sore and you still go to the gym, that's a win.
Yeah.
That's a big
Exactly.
win.
Yeah.
That's a big win.
Yeah.
Have you seen like big time results in your business from training?
Yeah, I think it's my level of conviction of how I speak, right? How I carry myself, like I said, and my energy level, I would say, but also my belief in what I'm doing. The fact that I went through that process, I got a great result, and I was doubting myself about that for so many years that I proved to myself that I'm capable of way more than I thought. So then I convey that to people that I speak with. I tell people, look, if anything, when we're working together, I'm going to be that guy that's going to be crazy enough to tell you can do anything you want. You can achieve anything you want. You can be whoever you want. You can get wherever you want, because the only person stopping is you. It's like, I talked to a lender and he's like, I'm hoping to be top 20. I was like, why not number 1?
Yeah.
I go beyond that. I go, why not? If we're gonna dream, might as well dream big. Why not?
You got to get honestly, you have to get a goal that's going to excite you.
Yeah.
If you have a small goal, sometimes, it's good to have a small goals, but the bigger goal has to be very big.
Yeah.
In order to push you there.
Yeah, it's like you stack the daily wins to get to the big win.
Yeah.
Right? It's like base hits in baseball. You could go for the home run, but base hits will get you the score.
Yeah.
So,
it doesn't have to be a home run. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't have to be. As long as you don't hit the ball, get on the base.
Yeah. Which years were you in the Marines?
98 to 2002.
To 2002. So did you have to be, did you go to Afghanistan or
No,
what? No,
I got out right before we started the Iraqi war.
Yeah,
2003.
Iraqi was March 2003.
Yep.
Yeah, March 2003.
Yeah. And it was kind of slow at the beginning. They were sending a certain amount of people, certain type amount of troops, certain units. Yeah. And then in 06, the unit that I was with, they got deployed, but in 06.
No,
so it took a while. It took a while for them to get deployed.
Yeah, because but Afghanistan was 2000, right after 9/11, so it was 2000.
Yeah, 2000. Well, but our Operation Iraqi Freedom was 03.
Was 03, yeah.
That's when they actually officially called the start of the mission.
Yeah, I remember that well. So I graduated from high school in 2003. Back then I was like, I don't want to go to school and yada yada. So I come in and I went to see in Union City, 48th Street and Bergen Line. Yeah. I went to one of the offices for the Marines. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sign up.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sign up. I was 17. I was going to be 18 on June 11th.
Okay.
You got to wait. This was April.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to get your parents' permission if that's the case. Yeah.
So this is April, right after the war started already in Iraq. So went to my mom, my parents. No way.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that I always think about, like, how would have been different,
Sure.
Yeah, because I saw a lot of friends went, and some people came back not in the best condition.
Right. Yeah.
But what would you say, again, like what do you learn from being the Marines? Is it something that,
Service, right? The result in leadership. And so one of the things, the quotes that I always say, and I got this, I forget where it is. I feel like there's a couple of people that have said this, but regardless, is that if service is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you, right? So over time, history has proven that the concept of servant leadership has been successful and has had impact. When you look at people like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, those are people that were servant leaders, right? And they impacted on a global level.
Yeah.
Leadership is important. The Marine Corps definitely gave me a lot of leadership skills in that sense. And also learning how to commit, learning how to deal with pressure, learning how to follow a system. Those are the things that I feel I took out of that. And then, of course, later on, you realize also it becomes a fraternity, a brotherhood. So I can meet with a guy that was in the Marine Corps either 10 years before me, 20 years before me, or currently now. And there's still a level of camaraderie that doesn't exist within the other branches, I feel, in comparison. So, I mean, we're the ones that tend to go a little nuts because of our birthday, which is November 10th. You know? You don't really see many branches doing so much celebration on their birthday, but we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's and definitely, you know, thank you for your service and everyone, because it's such a, especially nowadays, I always feel that, you know, people in the military don't get the recognition that they deserve.
Yeah,
it's you know, it's a huge sacrifice.
Sure.
And people don't have to do it.
No, you volunteer.
And they volunteer, and they, you know, it's we should always be looking for ways to help them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially those that, you know, have been in battle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's a tough one. Yeah. But so what's next for the magazine? What's next for you? Do you have any big time projects right now that you're thinking?
Yes. Well, I mean, so besides the magazine, I'm also the president and CEO of the Latino Chamber of Commerce. So I have that going on, and we have some projects coming up this year, some events coming up this year that we're excited about. As a matter of fact, next month we have a swearing ceremony down in Trenton. So I'll be sending you the information for that too. Hope you can come down. But there's a lot where we've definitely expanded our level of a circle of influence, but really also our network. So there's going to be some great events coming out of that, and I feel that's going to bring us to another level in terms of an organization and giving service back to our membership. But with the magazine, it's just going to be continuing to meet new realtors, featuring them in the magazine, hearing about their story, and doing just some badass events that everybody loves and can't stop talking about.
Yeah.
Really, that's the reality, because the events also bring this different level of magic when you put people together. And that's one of the fulfilling things that I get from doing this, because like I've seen people in the room connect. And all of a sudden I see these ecosystems developing right all around me. And I start realizing that it was my ecosystem that I developed through this platform of Real Producers Magazine or the Chamber of Commerce, where these individuals got together and something else came out of that.
Yeah.
Whether it be a new partnership, a new client relationship, hell, a new romance. Because I've seen that happen too, which is incredible. Yeah. So seeing all that happen, I mean, I could literally say one of them now, this is a romance, and there's a baby there. It's like, it's interesting to see
for real.
how things move on. And to be a part of that, or know that I was somewhat a factor or a catalyst to those events taking place, it feels fulfilled. Because I realized, through those like behavior, personality surveys and all that crap, one of the things I am very legacy minded. I don't know why, but I feel like whatever I'm doing now, I have to make an impact, because, hey, I come from the world of retiring, playing in life insurance, right? I'm very aware of my mortality, very aware. I know for sure that I could have been gone yesterday. I'm still here. We don't know when that's going to happen, right? So we have to do everything we can now to leave as much impact possible, because that's all you can leave.
I mean, I think when you approach something with legacy in mind, you do it right.
Yeah.
You know, I think you just, when you do business and you're only thinking, hey, I need to make a buck here, as opposed to like, hey, I'm thinking bigger.
Yeah.
You tend to do things in a much better way.
Yeah.
It's too many people just focus on what's in front, which I think you should, but also you need to start focusing more on like, hey, why am I doing this?
Exactly.
What's the bigger picture?
Yeah.
So the Latino Chamber of Commerce, how long has it been around?
So that's the story. So in its original form, it was 2015, and it was the Union County Latino American Chamber of Commerce. At the time when I was working at an office, it was White Plains. I guess you can call him my business coach, manager, was telling me about the business. He goes, listen, you got to start getting out there and networking. You got to meet people. You got to look at, what makes sense for you, affinity groups, blah, blah, blah. So he said, all right, Chamber of Commerce, look into that. I'm pretty sure there's Hispanic and Latino ones in Jersey. Go find one. So I went out, all right, got my homework. I went and found one. I became a member. I went back. Okay, I signed up as a member. It's great. Now I want you to look into how you could be a committee member or a board member. You got to serve. You got to be involved. I'm like, oh, okay. So I then talked to the founder. I'm like, hey, is there any way I can be involved with the organization? Like, just besides a member, how can I help?
Yeah.
And he was like, open arms, like, please, yes, please help. Let's go. Because you know what? For nonprofits and organizations like that, finding volunteers isn't easy to be people that want to just volunteer. So we talked about it. I said, no problem. So he made me the director of membership, right? So I started off like that, talking to people about membership. And this is great. This is another way for me to break the ice with new people that I don't know. And I just started talking to people, meeting people, go to networking events. And then in 2017, he approached me and he said, listen, Darwin, I'm restructuring the organization. I want to know, would you be interested in being president? And I go, sure. Okay. No clue what I'm doing here. I'm like, okay, fine. But you know what? Sometimes when you pray for something, it comes in a certain way. You got to walk through that door. And I was praying at that time for influence. I want to expand my territory, expand who I am. I want people to know me. So this is the chance, right? So I get put as president. 2018 is my first calendar year. 2019, we do those 2 years as Union County, do events, very successful. People love the events. 2020 hits. No events. Shut down.
Yeah.
Quarantine, right? Now you're like, I'm like, oh man, now what do I do? People are leaving, like basically like 80% of my board members just left. I mean, they just kind of fizzled away. So I'm like, all right, 2021 comes around and I started recruiting people. It's like, hey, listen, remember the chamber? I'm not letting it go. Are you in? You in? Find people like, you know what? Yeah, I want to get in. Okay, let's do it. So then August 2021, we were a little forward thinking, maybe a little aggressive, depending on the when you consider the temperature of how things were in terms of the current events of COVID and politics. That things were shut down. There was restrictions, and not many organizations were willing to take the risk at that time to do an event. Because, oh no, you want to do an event, you're going to have a super spreader event. That was the word back then, super spreader event. Right. Well, apparently I had a super spreader event. But anyway, so August 2021, I had an event, and then being a networking cruise around the Hudson. And it was a great time. Open bar, food, music. And what we did was that we just renamed the organization the Latino Chamber of Commerce, because at that point, we realized a couple of things, but the biggest one we figured out was that the membership profile that we now have at that time was out of state too. It wasn't just Union County. It was people from, and the reason why, because when we sold tickets that day, because in my mind, we're starting from zero. Yeah. When we started selling tickets that day, we included a 1-year membership to the chamber. So in our eyes, we went from 0 to 250 members of one event. Wow. Right? So then at that point, but we're looking at the people coming in from Connecticut, New York, Jersey. So now it's like, all right, we're not Union County anymore. We're bigger than this. And that's how it started. That's how we kept that name, and that's been our initiative and our goal and our mission ever since that point, was to continue to spread our territory and be able to meet new people. And who knows, hopefully in the future we may have a South Jersey chapter. We may have a Philadelphia presence, a New York presence. For me, I could see even more. I did at one point start a Florida chapter. As you get further out of state, a little harder to find leadership, but it's possible to be done, right? So we're going to start here, grassroots, and then grow from there.
Well, I mean, what is the mission of how can the Latino Chamber of Commerce help me in my business?
So there's three areas or three pillars, let's say, that the chamber does or support or sits on to support the membership. Number one, it is the networking and event opportunity. Being able to help people to develop relationships, which are hugely important, right? Mm-hmm. Connecting other communities with who maybe never connected before. For example, this event in Trenton, I know people from this area of North Jersey may take a trip down to Trenton that day and come to our event. They're going to meet new people down there. And the Trenton people, it's going to be new to them, right? So now we become the bridge to be able to get these groups together so they can network and develop relationships. So that's one area. The second part is providing education and resources. For example, small business loans. How does a small business properly set themselves up so they can succeed in the procurement market, meaning being able to bid on government contracts? That area. That's another area of that we promote and we help support members. The third part is advocacy. So, for example, if there's maybe a policy that's coming out in a local township that maybe it's going to either affect the businesses negatively or positively, we can be a voice as well between the business community and local government to be able to express our opinions about what's going on in that area.
Yeah. So now, who are the, what type of people make up the membership right now? Is there like just one industry, or do you have?
Oh yeah, they're spread out. They're spread out. Yeah, so people within real estate, finance, different kind of sales industries, some blue collar in there. So it's a mix.
That's and you said the next event is in Trenton, right?
Yes.
Yes, and that is for swearing in of
the board of directors.
Of the board of directors.
And then after the ceremony, we're going across the street to another location and do like a little cash bar mixer thing there. Yeah.
Now let me ask you, because I'm sure there are some people out there that say, okay, service, but what is the benefit of like getting actually involved in it, not just as a member, but as
a board member or committee member?
A committee member, because I get this question from a lot of the different groups. Here is like, oh, why am I gonna be helping over there? And I'm not gonna lie, I have asked myself that too.
Right.
Even though sometimes I wanna get myself involved, and I go like, ooh.
Yeah. So, first part for me, I talked about before, servant leadership, right? So once you're on the board and you're serving, that I feel organically develops an image of leadership in your community or the people that you know. But the other part is that, and this is a quote that I've gotten from BNI, if you've ever been a BNI member, right? That visibility creates credibility that leads to profitability. So visibility creates credibility that leads to profitability, right? So you want to be more profitable, you have to be more credible. You want to be more credible, you have to be more visible. And I feel that when you're serving on a board like that, whether it be a chamber or a nonprofit, either church board, either way, that factor on underneath all that is working in your favor, because you're now visible because you're on the board. You now have credibility because you're serving, and you have some kind of position in a leadership role. And then the third part is now, then that leads to profitability.
Yeah.
Right? Because then now you develop relationships and people see you maybe a little different, and it may open doors that weren't necessarily open prior to you becoming a part of the organization at that leadership level.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, that is such a great point, because a lot of times, that you could be the best at anything, and if nobody knows you, people say the whole thing is who you know. Yeah, it's who you know and who knows you. Yeah, that's just as important. And so I embraced this philosophy and I took action on it, where I've benefited tremendously from the relationships that I've built and the opportunities that being involved and taking on leadership roles, however pleasurable or painful it could be from time to time, benefited, right? Yeah. So. Yeah, no, I think it's at least for myself, and we'll probably talk off camera later on. but yeah, like I was giving this advice to one of the younger guys in the office, and it's like, dude, you have to start building your brand. And I know everyone says that, and it doesn't mean that you have to just go overboard, but it's like people need to know you. People need to know, and for myself too. I mean, listen, this whole thing is part of that. Yeah. I want people to know who I am, because I always tell people, look, I think I'm very good at what I do. Right. But besides this small group of people, there's other people that have no idea, that might see me, and word of mouth, but let's face it, word of mouth sometimes is slow.
It's slow, or it doesn't go as far.
It doesn't go as far.
So you have to put your part.
Yeah. And I mean, you're so on point when you say that best way to do is service. Yeah. Best way to do is service. Yeah. What is there any other organization that you work with, or so it's the Latino Chamber of Commerce. You got the Central Jersey Real
the magazine,
magazine.
And I'm still in financial services. I still have a practice with that.
So let's talk about that. Like,
Sure.
exactly what do you do? What is your focus on the?
Yeah. So I work with a financial planning firm, and my focus has been on the retirement planning and insurance space. So whether it be somebody that's rolling over an IRA and putting it into some kind of account, or they're looking for life insurance, that's my wheelhouse right there, especially on the life insurance side, because I remember having conversations with somebody, and recently actually, they wanted to have just a phone call consultation about trusts and life insurance and retirement plans. As we're going through the conversation,
That's a big topic.
and this person, she thought that we will be able to knock it all out in 30 minutes on a phone call. As I started, I said, no problem. What are you trying to do? I said, I have questions about this. Okay. I'm going to ask you some questions. Why this? Why this? Why? I play like 5 whys. And she just stops. She goes, okay, I can tell this is going to be way longer than 30 minutes. I go, right. I said, let's just take this step by step and figure out what this segment, what you're asking in different layers, and then create objectives as to what you're trying to accomplish for each of one of them.
Yeah.
Right? A basic question, even for life insurance. I said, all right, how much life insurance do you want? And the question is why, and how'd you come to that number?
Yeah.
It was just, no, okay. We have to take more of an analytical approach to finding the right amount. It's not just, let's just pick up a number out of the air.
Yeah.
Why? What do you want this to do for you? What's your exit strategy from this policy, by the way? And they're like, I don't even know what that means. Okay, well then we have to talk about that.
Yeah, no, right. I mean, I know for a fact. I mean, if you're trying to get way too much coverage, I mean, sometimes companies deny you.
Yeah,
you know, so you
that's
need
true.
To know
and then
exactly,
the question is, let's talk about you, your health. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah.
Is it, just because you want it doesn't mean you qualify for it.
Yeah, and it's I mean, that's look. A lot of people come to me. It's exactly the same way when they think about mortgage, because they have this idea that, hey, I'm simply just buying a house. And sometimes I come up and they're so used to dealing with mortgage with lenders that they'll go ahead and their whole focus is on, hey, just here's the mortgage, that's it. Which,
Right.
listen, that's how we make money. But at the same time, if we're looking to get a client for life, we have to do what's right for them in the long term.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And sometimes it's just about like, hey, why are you doing this? Especially in the beginning. Look, some people come in and they're like, they're already under contract and everything, and conversation is totally different. It's like, hey, how do we make this happen?
Sure.
But sometimes it's really like, they'll come to me and they'll say, look, I want to buy a house. I want to build generational wealth.
Okay, great.
I want to refinance. And you start asking, yeah, but why? Why are we doing this? Are we trying to pay off debts? Are we trying to buy an actual investment property? Are you trying to just get more space? And then how is that connected to other parts of life? So it's it's a lot more complex than
Yeah, totally.
than it looks. Yeah. How long have you been doing
In that space, financial services, 15 years.
15 years. And where did you start? Always at the same company? Or?
No, I started off with Mass Mutual.
Mass Mutual.
And then from there, stayed there for a number of years, and then went more like independent.
Independent.
Yeah.
And now you're there.
Yeah, so it's like a broker model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, one thing from our conversations, not just this one, but you've been around business for a long time. I know you're obviously successful because you're still doing business, and that's a success. But what would be your advice to someone who's just like right off the bus, like, a 20-year-old or anybody who just, decides one day, hey, I want to go and work in one of these professions that are more, one of these careers, you have to be more independent. You're basically running your own business because let's face it, real estate agent is your own business, lender is your own business, having a magazine, your own business, and also anything with insurance and financial planning is your own business.
Right.
What would be your advice to someone?
My advice is that first, make sure you're financially ready for that kind of transition. So, for example, if you've had a job for a while and you want to, and so I've met people that have jobs, and then sometimes they'll talk to me and say, "Oh man, it must be really cool to just do what you want when you want." I said, "Who told you I do what I want when I want?" I said, "I do what I need to do all the time." That's really what it is.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a price for your freedom. So yeah, there might be days where I'm off that you're not, but I pay the price when you don't. For example, when you log off of your computer and you at 5 o'clock, you check out. I don't. I work 7 days a week. I have to make sure that I'm always prospecting, following up, pushing, because the needle has to move. Yeah. And I'm the one moving it. Your employer just says, here's your check and you can go. Now, you can be, by the way, an entrepreneur, or maybe you work with a company that gives you the opportunity to move up the ranks and be successful that way. Nothing wrong with that. Or you can be an entrepreneur where you be outside and do it on your own. But either way, it's going to take sacrifice. The question is, what kind of sacrifice are you willing to take? Right? Yeah. That's really it. And then if you're the person that you have no fear of rejection, and you have or you're okay with rejection, number one. Number two, if you're okay with uncertainty and you're willing to do work in that kind of space, then being an entrepreneur could be for you. And then the question is, what would be meaningful for you in terms of a business? Yeah. Maybe it is lending. Maybe it's real estate. Maybe it's financial services. Maybe it's owning a franchise. That's different. That's based on the person, right? What they're looking to do. So,
yeah, no, I mean, listen, a lot of people see. I was having this conversation with a friend who's been working in corporate for 20 years. And he just like completely at this point, he's like, oh my God, like I can't take this anymore. Especially because, you depend on other people, like when all of the sudden things change and, it's like you have no control. And one of the things he said is like, oh yeah, no, I always see you playing golf, man, which is true. I'm always playing golf. But what a lot of people don't see is that, the reason why I can do that is because I'm up at 4 a.m, like working on files. And then I'll use the full day meeting people or sometimes playing golf. And then when most people want to talk about mortgages is 6 to 10 p.m. because they're out of work. So, you know what, at that time, I'm in my computer. Yeah. So it's like, and it's like yesterday. Yeah. It was like 8 p.m. and somebody's calling me because they want to put an offer today. Mm-hmm. So you know what? It's a 7 days. Exactly. And that's the sacrifice that I paid to be able to do other things with my family and everything. So it's, and talking about the financials, like when I went into this business, really, I mean, I've been doing in the financial services for 20 years, but really like 3.5, 4 years in mortgages. Mm-hmm. It's because I had a full plan. Right. I said to myself, you know what? I know I'm going to take the hit for the next 12 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. Right. I can handle it. I can go ahead and then it just like, and then learning the pains. Sure. Yeah. Learning the pains. Yeah. Well, listen, I really appreciate the time. I look forward to working with you a lot more. Yeah. Actually, let me ask you, who is the net? Are you able to say who's going to be in the Nets cover?
Yes. Oh, the April issue's coming out. Excuse me. And that is a woman named Amira, out of the Somerset area.
Somerset area. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. With Redfin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. I get that a lot too. Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't meet many Redfin agents, and she happens to be Redfin.
Yeah. I have some things to say about Redfin. But yeah, wow. Well, yeah. Listen, I'm very, very much looking forward to that. And I really thank you. I look forward to working with you a lot more. I mean, we talked about some plans, and it's going to be exciting. And, thank you for all you do for the community, because I see you everywhere. And yeah, big things coming.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you also for giving me the opportunity to be on your podcast. I mean, I think you're onto something really big here. You're bringing a lot of value to the people watching this, and keep going because it's needed.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that's the big thing. You got to keep going because, like you said, a lot of people start.
Don't finish.
That's right. We're going to keep it, I'll be episode 800 pretty soon.
That's right. Yeah. That's what I like to hear. 800.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it, bro.
My pleasure.
Yeah.